Good evening, everyone. Good evening, friends. Yeah, welcome back to our sessions on Python for AI. We'll continue with the functions topic that we have started in the recent session, right? So we'll quickly recap what we have covered in the last session and we'll understand new topics as part of functions, right? So what exactly is a function? What is a function in Python? What is a function? Function is nothing but it's a sub program of main program, right? So within the main program, we'll have sub program. It is called as function. Also called as, it's a part of main program. Then what are the different parts we have in function? What are the different parts in function? So we have function definition as well as function call. So these are the two parts that we have in function. So within the function definition, but before that, what is the syntax for defining a function? How can we define a function in Python? What is the syntax, guys? This is the syntax. So a function is defined using this syntax. It is def keyword followed by function name. Then next to the function name, we'll have parenthesis. Within the parenthesis, we'll pass any parameters. If there are any parameters that will be passed within the parenthesis, and next to it we'll have indentation symbol. Yes, and followed by doc string and our block of statements. The operations that has to be executed, that has to be performed, will be you know kept under these block of statements. Right? Yes. Then what else did we discuss? We have also discussed the four approaches to develop functions in Python. So what are the differences between the approaches, guys? We have discussed approach 1, approach 2, then 3 as well as 4, right? So what makes the difference between all these approaches? The difference that we observed is the input and the output, right? So when it comes to these approaches that we have discussed as part of the last session, In Python, we have four approaches. Approach 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, which helps us to develop the functions. And what makes the difference between the approaches is when it comes to input and output, from where we are going to get these input and output will be the difference between the approaches. In approach 1, the input and output will be from the function call. But in approach 2, the input will be from function body as well as the output is also from the function body. So from the function body, you'll get both input and output will also be returned. Right? Then comes to approach 3, input will be from function call and output will be from function body. In approach 4, input will be from function body and output will be from function call. For each and every approach, we have also understood examples. Right? And today, we are going to start a new topic. It is parameters and arguments. Because in a function, within the parenthesis, the formal braces, the regular braces, we are passing few values. Yes. And we are naming it as parameters. Sometimes we are also using it as arguments. So in today's session, we'll be understanding what is a parameter, what is an argument, what are the different types of parameters we have in Python. Then, for each and every type, we are also going to discuss examples. Right? So this is our agenda for the day. Yes. So when it comes to parameters in functions, we have two types of parameters. There are two types of parameters. First of all, is parameter and argument both are same? No. There are different meanings. Parameter is different and argument is different. Okay. So let us understand what is parameter and what are the two types of parameters we have in Python, followed by what are arguments in Python. Okay, so initially when it comes to the topic of parameters, we have formal parameters and local parameters. We have formal parameters and local parameters in Python within functions. What is formal parameter and what is local parameter? Formal parameters or variables, they are used in function heading. Okay, so within the function heading part, the formal parameters will be used. And what is the purpose of these formal parameters? They are used for storing or holding the values that come from function calls. Whenever you're calling the function, you're passing the values. Yes. So in order to store these values, in order to hold these values, we use formal parameters in function heading. So that is formal parameters. Then what are local parameters? Local parameters are variables. They are used in function body. Within the function body, we'll have local parameters or variables. And they are used for storing the temporary results in the function body. They are also used to store the results, but temporarily within the body. Okay, So we have two types of parameters. One is formal, the other one is local. Formal parameters are used in function heading. Okay, so def keyword followed by function name. Next to function name, we'll have parentheses, right? Within the parentheses, we'll be using some variables. These are called as, you know, formal parameters. These are called as formal parameters. And what is the purpose of having formal parameters? They help us to show, store the values that come from function calls. When it comes to local parameters, they are actually part of function body and they are also helping us to store the results temporarily within the body. So that is the difference between formal and local parameters. Right. Then we also had a point regarding these parameters. Okay. The values of formal parameters and local parameters, they can be accessed in corresponding function definition only. Within the function definition only, we can access these values of formal and local parameters, but not possible to access the values in the context of other function definitions. So within the function, okay, we can access the values of formal and local parameters. But when the function changes, no. Right? Yes. Now let us understand what is argument. Parameters, we are clear, right? The variables, the values that are used to store the values coming from the function calls. Right? Then, what exactly is an argument? What is an argument in Python? Function. Arguments are the variables. They are also the variables used in function calls. So whenever you call the function, you use some variables. These variables are called as arguments. Okay. So that means whenever we are calling a function, post defining it, we use some variables. These variables are named as arguments. And these arguments are also called as actual arguments. They're also called as actual arguments. Right? So the difference between parameters and arguments, I hope it's clear. Parameters, you'll have it only during function definition. It might be formal or local parameter. Both of them will be part of a function definition. Whenever you are defining a function, you'll have parameters. But when you are calling them, when you are calling the functions, we'll be using some variables. These variables are called as arguments, also called as actual arguments. From this, I can draw a statement. Yes, here we have the statement. Hence, all the values of actual arguments, nothing but the arguments, are passing to formal parameters. That's it, right? Post defining, when we are calling the function, the values that you have within the function will be passed to the parameters only, right? And this type of mechanism is called arguments parameter passing mechanism. It is a mechanism. This entire journey, this process is called as an argument parameter passing mechanism. And in Python, we have 5 types of argument parameter passing mechanisms. So friends, are you aware of these 5 argument parameter passing mechanisms? Any idea? Or are you interested in giving a try? If you are aware, keep them in the chat. I hope it's clear, right? What is the difference between parameter and argument? We have understood. Then the types of parameters have been understood. And we have also understood what is argument parameter passing mechanism. What is this mechanism? Whenever you are calling the function, the values that you will have for the arguments will be passed to the parameters. It will pass it to the formal parameters. And this is called as an argument parameter passing mechanism. This is called as argument parameter passing mechanism. So any idea? Any one of you? What are the 5 different types of argument parameter passing mechanisms that we have in Python functions? Just give a try. That's fine. Shall we proceed then? Right. Now let us understand what are the 5 types of argument parameter passing mechanisms that we have in Python functions. Probably we have an understanding of all these mechanisms, right? Yes. See, these are nothing but, they are argument parameter passing mechanisms only. In short, most of us might have been, understood like types of arguments, types of parameters. But strictly speaking, it is types of arguments, parameters, passing mechanisms. They are arguments, parameter, passing mechanism. That is what we are doing. We are taking the values of arguments, the actual arguments will be passed to the formal parameters. And this journey, this process is called a mechanism. Okay. In Python, we have 5 types of argument parameter passing mechanisms. What are they? They are positional parameters, default parameters or arguments, keyword parameters or arguments, variable length parameters or arguments, and keyword variable length parameters or arguments. All these 5 are nothing but the 5 types of arguments parameter passing mechanisms only. So let us understand one by one positional, default, keyword, variable length and keyword variable length. Okay. So for each and every type of mechanism, we have multiple examples. So pay attention, guys. Pay attention. Initially, we'll understand how this mechanism works. Okay. So what exactly is positional parameters arguments? Then we'll understand examples. Right. Let us get started. The first one out of, the positional, out of the argument parameter passing mechanism is positional arguments are, parameters. So what is the concept of positional parameters or arguments? What exactly is the concept of positional parameters or arguments? The concept says that the number of arguments, the number of actual arguments, okay, must be equal to the number of formal parameters. Okay, so the number of arguments must be equal to the number of formal parameters. What are formal parameters? The values, the variables that we pass during function definition. in the function heading is nothing but formal parameters. Then what are actual arguments? Arguments, the values, the variables that you pass during function call. So these parameters and the arguments have to be same. That is the concept of positional arguments. Yes, they have to be same. Then this particular mechanism, it also recommends the order of parameters for higher accuracy. The value that argument 1 will be assigned to param 1. Why? Based on the position. Okay. So argument 1 value will be assigned to param 1 based on the position. Not argument 1 value will be assigned to param 2. No. Based on the position, the values gets assigned. Okay. And in Python, by default, it follows positional arguments only, positional parameters. Right? So very important, positional parameters or arguments. So this is how we define our function. Yes. So if you have 10 parameters, 10 formal parameters, when you are calling the same function, we should also pass 10 actual arguments. So the first value will be assigned to the first parameter. Second value will be assigned to the second parameter. So on. 10th value will be assigned to the 10th parameter. That is what we have it over here. Not first value will be assigned to the 10th parameter. No. Based on the position, the values gets passed. That is why it is named as positional arguments or parameters. Position, based on the position. Okay, so two important points. One is the number of formal parameters and the number of arguments should be same. Same in the sense they have to be equal in the number. If not, you'll get an error. Okay, and the values gets passed based on the position. Right? So these are the two important points when it comes to positional arguments. So let us work out on a few examples to understand well. I'll go back. Able to see my screen? Yes. Now, what are we doing in line number 4002? 4002. What exactly are we doing here, friends? We are defining a function. We are defining a function. Okay. What is the function name? The function name is disp_stud_info. It's nothing but display student info, in which we have three parameters. What are these? These are called as parameters. What kind of parameters are they? They are formal parameters. Formal parameters. Right? Then we have three parameters followed by the indentation symbol and only one block of statement. What does it say? It says to print the results. The values that get passed for these parameters will be printed in the message where the formatting is being done. It just prints. That's it. Right? Yes. So let me execute the function. Let me define it. Define. Yes, done. Now, what are we doing? Post defining the function, I started calling the function. Function call, right? And how many values are we passing? These are nothing but the arguments. Whenever you're calling the function, okay, the values that you pass are nothing but actual arguments, right? So how many arguments are we passing? 3. So S number takes 10, name takes Rosam, and marks takes 33.33. Once after these values get passed to the parameters, based on the position, so they become positional arguments or parameters. They become positional arguments, right? Post passing the values to these parameters, what happens? It has to execute line number 4003, where it prints the values by performing formatting. So it prints 10 backslash t, where it prints a tab space. So 10 tab space, rosum tab space 33.33 gets printed. So this is an example for positional arguments or parameters. Clear? Understood or not? See, I have the output. The first value was being passed to the first parameter only. Okay, if you observe, 10 was printed initially. That means S number took the value of 10. 10 was passed to S number. But 10 was not passed to marks or 10 was not passed to me. Why? Based on the position. Based on the position, the arguments will be passed to the parameters. I have 3 parameters. So obviously, as they are positional arguments, we should pass 3 values. If not, it will throw error. That is the concept of positional arguments, right? So we have to pass 3 values. Right. Now, what will be the output for the next line? In the same way, I'm calling the function again. So what will be the output in the next case? Come on guys, what will be the output for the next line? Start responding. The output will be 20 Gosling 11.11. Good. They are positional arguments. Based on the position, the values are getting assigned. The values are being passed to the parameters. What about the next line? Line number 4008. What will be the output for line number 4008? Where we are passing the values as 40, Travis, and 77.77. So the same output, 40, Travis, and 77.77 will be printed. Again, we are passing three values. Three values gets printed as it is. I'm just calling the function, guys. I have defined and I'm calling it. That's it. And finally, for the last line, the output will be 30 NEUT 66.66. Clear? Right. Now, let us go and create one more function. We'll define one more function. We'll define one more function. And the function name is same. Disp stored info. It's nothing but display student info. But this time, how many parameters am I going to involve? I'm going to take four. S number, name, marks, and city. Okay. And within the function, I'm just keeping only one block of statement where it prints the values that were passed to these parameters. Okay. So let me define it. I have defined. Right? Now, I'm going to, before I call the function, I'm using print function to print hyphens. 40 hyphens will be printed. Then next to it, it will print student number, a tab space, name, tab space, marks, tab space, Hyderabad. See, just focus on the console as well. Right? Yes. Previously, we have used three parameters. Now, we are making it as four. So that means you can have multiple parameters. Then, printing hyphens 40 again. So I'm calling the function now. Display student info function is being called where we are passing the values for the parameters. So these values will be passed to the parameters based on the position. And moreover, it also checks for the number of values. How many values are we passing? 4. How many parameters do we have? They are again 4. So matched. Obviously, it will execute printing all these values. 10, Rosam, 33.33 and Hyderabad. Simple guys. In the same way, I'm executing the next line, then the next one, and finally the last. Just passing the values. That's it. Whenever you're calling the function, when if we want to change the values, pass the values accordingly, the function gets executed. Once after completing, I'm going to print hyphens. Job done. So positional arguments, it's very simple, right? Positional arguments are parameters. You're unable to understand, my friend? See, what are we doing here? I'm defining the function. Okay. So post defining it, let me show you. So this is my function. Okay. So within the function, I have four parameters. S number, name, marks, and city. So these values, then within the function, we have one more statement. Okay. So where it says print of the values, a message will be printed, but in which we also have a format function. So the values that you pass for these parameters will be formatted in this message. So S number will it gets replaced here. Then \t means, it is tab space. Then what is the next one? name gets formatted in the next place. Again, it prints a tab space. Then what is the next? In the next place, marks gets formatted. And finally, at the last place, city value, the value that city takes will get formatted. In this way, it prints the values that were being passed to these parameters. So this is an example of positional arguments or parameters. Based on position, the values are getting assigned. The values are getting passed. Okay, so 10 will not be passed to city. No, 10 will be passed to S number, serial number. Clear? Right. Now, let us go and understand the next type of arguments or parameters. The next mechanism. It is default parameters or arguments. What is this default parameters or arguments? The next mechanism out of the five. The first one is positional. The second one is default. Right. So let us understand what exactly is this default. What is the purpose of using default? Right. So whenever there is a common value for a family of function calls. Okay. So within a function calls, if there is any common value, okay, such type of common value must be taken as default parameter. Such kind of common value must be taken as default parameter. With the common value, if you want to pass the same value for a parameter, irrespective of number of times the function calls, such kind of parameters are nothing but default parameters or arguments. Okay, but not recommended to pass by using positional parameters. No, they are not recommended to pass by using positional parameters. For that, we also have the syntax. The syntax is def keyword followed by function name, then parameter 1, parameter 2, then parameter n minus 1, the value. Parameter n, the value for it. Okay, so that means a common value will be passed to the parameter in the definition itself, function definition itself. Such kind of parameters are called default parameters, default arguments. Okay, I'll just give a small example. See, when you are working for an organization, probably within an organization, there will be multiple people. Yes, there will be multiple employees working under an organization. So what will be the default parameter for all of them? Probably their organization, the company. Because all of them, for them, it is the same company. So instead of passing, it's better to declare that particular parameter. Company is equals to the company name. Okay, so whenever you are defining the function, within the function, I'll keep the parameter name as company is equals to the company name. That becomes a default parameter. So where do you observe default parameters is in general under function definition itself. Within the function definition, the values will be passed to the parameters. Okay, so these parameters, they are generally expected to be at the last of the position of the parameters. Here we have the rules anyways. So within this syntax, okay, The parameter n minus 1 and parameter n, they are called as default parameters. Yes, that's what we have discussed. Because they take the default value. Value 1 will be the default value for parameter n minus 1. Value 2 will be the value for parameter n. But param 1 and param 2, are they default parameters? No. If they are default parameters, where are the default values? They are not default parameters. They are positional parameters or positional arguments. Clear? Yes. And we also have a rule which says when we use default parameters in the function definition, are we using? Yes. So whenever we are using default parameters in the function definition, they must be used at the last position. They have to be as the last parameter. Otherwise, we get error. Otherwise, we get error. What kind of error you get? You'll get a syntax error. And the error will be non-default arguments follows default argument. This will be the error. Right? So let us understand default parameters or arguments using some examples. Okay. So I'll go back. And let us understand the examples for default parameters or arguments. What are we doing? From here onwards, I want everyone to respond. What are we doing in line number 4027? We are defining a function. We are defining a function. Okay. And the name of the function is same. Display student info is the name of the function. In which we have how many parameters we have in the function? Definition part. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 parameters, formal parameters, and out of these 4 parameters, which parameter is a default parameter? Which one is the default one, guys? There are 4. The 4 parameters that we are having inside the function are S number, name, marks, and city. Right? So city is the default parameter. Why? Good. Because by default it takes a value. It is Hyderabad. HYD. HYD is the value, the default value for the parameter city. Okay, so city is the default parameter in this function. Then what about S number, name, and marks? What kind of parameters are these? These are positional parameters, positional arguments. Okay, fine. What does our block of statement say? It says the same. To print the values that were being passed to these parameters. Okay, so the values gets formatted and it prints with a tab space between these values. Clear? Right. Now, I'll execute the function. Job done. I'm going to print hyphens, 40 hyphens, then printing a message using print function and printing 40 hyphens again. Right. Now, tell me what will be the output for line number 4034, where I'm just passing only three values, three arguments. Where I'm passing only three values, 10, row sum, and 33.33. Only these three I'm passing. Will I get any error? No, I'll not get any error. Why? It starts passing the values. So positional parameters, right? Positional arguments, right? So 10 will be passed to S number. Row sum will be passed to name. 33.33 will be passed to marks. So what will be the output? Only these three will be given as output. No. It will also give HYD as output. Why? Am I passing? No, even if I am not passing, the default value for city is HYD. HYD. So even though if you don't pass the value for the default parameter or argument, it takes the default value and it prints. It returns that particular value as the output. Okay, so let me execute. So I have to get 10 row sum 33.33 and HYD as output. I should get all. Yes. Not only three friends. All the four values will be given in the output, not three. Don't get confused. From where did we get HYD? What is the purpose of using a default parameter then? A default parameter will take a default value. Okay, right. Now, in the same way, I'm also going to do in the next line. So again, I'll get the four values written in the output. Yes, all of them will be printed. HYD, the default value. In the next line, again the four values. Then, what about the next line? Again, it is going to return the four values where we are just passing only three. But this time, I'm passing four values. Am I just passing only three? No, I'm passing four arguments. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what will be the output in case of line number 4038? So 10 will be assigned to S number. Then trump will be assigned to, name. Trump will be assigned to name. 15.55 will be assigned to marks. Anyhow, I have the value for city, right? Will 4038 return an error? Or what will be the output for line number 4038? Good. It will not return any error. If you don't pass any value for the default parameter, like in case of these lines, it takes the default value. But if you pass a value, for the default parameter, it takes that specified value. So the output will be 60 trump 15.55 USA. It will not throw any error, friends. No error. No. Okay. So city takes USA. Let me execute. Done. Anyhow, for line number 4039, we are passing three values. So city takes the default value HYD. Line number 4040, we are passing a value for city. It is RSA. Okay, so it does not take the default value, it takes RSA and prints the, parameters. And finally, I'm just printing hyphens. Clear? So when you don't pass a value for a default parameter, it takes by default same value. But when you pass a value, this specific value will be taken by the default parameter or argument. So that makes the difference. Right. Now, let us understand the next example. Okay. So this is related to, we are going to define a function and the function name is display employee details. So far we have understood a function related to students and this is regarding employees. So what do you see in the parenthesis? What do you see in the parenthesis? All of these are parameters, right? That's fine. But what kind of parameters are they? What kind of arguments are they? They are default parameters. How come? For each and every parameter, are we passing a default value? Yes. Yes. For each and every parameter, we have a value. So all of these four parameters are nothing but default parameters, right? So the same logic, we have to print the values to the console using a print function and formatting will be done. Done. Now I'm going to print hyphens followed by, the values. Printing a message, okay, and printing the hyphens again, right? So what will be the output for line number 4050 where we are going to call the function? We are just calling the function. What will be the output? I'm calling the function. Yes. So are we passing any values? No. Even though if you don't pass any values to this function during the function call, as we have all the parameters as default parameters, the default values will be returned. They get printed. So the output will be 10, Naveen, 1.2, and company name is IBM. So that will be written as it is. We're just calling the function, but still, why are we able to have the values getting printed? Because all of these parameters are default parameters. They are default parameters. So what will be the output for the next line? 4051. 4051. What will be the output? Yes, we are passing a value for enrollment number, sorry, employee number, then employee name. So these values will be passed and rest of the values will be the default. So the output will be 20, Samir, 1.2 and IBM. Good. What about the next one, guys? What about the next one? What are the values that we are passing? We are passing for employee number, employee name, then salary. The output will always will be 30, Kumar 1.5 and IBM. So that means the same topic. We are understanding how default parameter works, right? So when you pass the values for the default parameters, these values will be, taken. But if you don't pass any value for the default parameters or the arguments, the default values will be considered. That is the concept we are trying to understand using multiple examples. So this time we are passing the values for all the default parameters. So the output will be 40, Kalam 1.6 and NEUT. That will be the output. Simple. And finally, just printing hyphens to ensure that the code gets, we are done with that particular program. Now, we are coming up with one more example for default parameters or arguments. It is area of circle. So what is the formula for area of circle, friends? What is the formula for area of circle? Area of circle is given as pi r square. Pi r square. So in this formula, which particular part is constant? Which particular value is constant? Is it pi? Yes. What is the value for pi? 22 by 7. 3.14. Right? So I'm just taking the value for pi as a default parameter. I'm coming up with a function, okay, where the name of the function is area circle, which accepts two values. One is r and the other one is pi. There are two parameters. R represents radius, pi represents pi. And r is a positional argument and pi is a default parameter. It's a default parameter. So as it is a constant, I am passing the value. The default value 3.14 will be considered every time. Right. So we have block of statements, three statements. So initially it calculates pi r square. This is multiplication operator and this is power operator, exponential. Right. So r square multiplied with 3.14 will be stored in AC. Right. And it is going to print radius as well as area of circle. Radius and area of circle will be printed. Clear? So very small function we are defining so that, any kind of whatever might be the radius, when you pass the value for the radius to this function, it is going to return the area of circle. So what are we doing in line number 4062? We are calling the function area circle. We are calling it. We are calling the function area circle, okay, in which we are passing only one value. So this one value will be for r. Based on the position, r takes 1.2. So once r takes 1.2, pi obviously takes 3.14, the default value. So it calculates the area of the circle and it prints radius and the circle, area of the circle. Just have a look on the console. So the radius that we have to give is 1.2. Then area of the circle is 4.5216. 16. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.5216. 4.52 In the same way, can we change the radius? Yes. Try changing the radius for multiple values. So let us see what is the radius, what will be the area of the circle when the radius is 2.2. It is 15.197. 15.197. Right? Then what will be the area of the circle? If I pass, the radius value is 5.2. 84.9. 84.9 is the area of the circle if R value is 5.2. And finally, if the R value is 6.8, the area of the circle will be 145.19. That's it. So, we are not even calculating any, not using calculators. No. Are we struggling? No. Just kept the logic inside the code, the function, and calling the function once it got defined. After it got defined, I'm calling it, I'll get the output, area of the circle. In this way, we can calculate the area of different, shapes. It might be a square, rectangle, whatever it might be, just you have to be, comfortable in writing the logics. That's it. So is this an example of default parameters? Yes. Where the parameter pi is a default parameter. Clear? Right. Now, let us understand the third type part of argument parameter passing mechanism. It is keyword parameters or arguments. The third one is called as keyword parameter or arguments. So what exactly is, the purpose of using a keyword parameter or arguments? Okay, in some circumstances, we know that the function name and the formal parameter names. Yes, in majority of the cases, we know the function name as well as the formal parameter names. And what if the order of the formal parameter names was not clear? Okay, if you are not clear on the formal parameter names, the order for these formal parameters, then how are you going to pass the values? The question raises. Because in general, what did we understood with respect to positional arguments, positional parameters? The value will be passed to the parameter based on the position. But we are not clear on the order of these formal parameters. Then how are we going to pass the values is the question mark. Then we use, in order to pass the values, there we'll use the concept of keyword parameters or keyword arguments. Okay, especially if you're not clear on the order of formal parameter names, yes, we can go and use the concept of keyword parameters or keyword arguments. Okay, so how do we implement keyword arguments or keyword parameters is all the formal parameter names are used as arguments. All the formal parameter names, they will be used as argument names in the function call as keys. This is very important. So how do we pass the values? We take all the formal parameters, the names that we have, these formal parameters will be used they will be used as arguments in the function call as keys. Then you can pass the value. Okay, so this is the syntax for the function, how we define the function. So all of these are formal parameters. And if I assume that if you are not clear on the order, if param2 is initially, it's at the first position, param1 is at the last position. If you are not clear on the position, the order, okay, then we can directly go and use keyword parameters, keyword arguments, where the syntax is function name. Within the function name, when we are calling the function, we'll pass the formal parameter names as the arguments, and these keys will be assigned with values. So the position, the order does not, it's not, we are not worried about the order. Whatever might be the order, as we are using the keys, based on the keys, the values will be passed. So this is the explanation for keyword parameters or arguments. So should we keep all these formal parameters in the sequence, in the order? Not required. See, that is what you see here. Param1 can be at the second position, last position, and whatever might be the position. I'm taking it as a key and then I'm passing the value, right? So whatever might be the position, accepted. Because accordingly, the value will be passed to param1. Right? In the same way for rest of the parameters as well. Right. Now let us also work out on a few examples for keyword parameters or arguments. So what are we doing? We are defining a function and the name of the function is display, disp. Okay, in which we have three parameters, three formal parameters we have, and they are A, B, C. Okay, followed by the indentation symbol, and within the block of statements, we just had only a single line which says to print a message in which it is going to print the values of A, B, C. Right? So let me define the function. Done. The function got defined. Now let me start calling it. So printing hyphens, then printing the message A, B, C along with some tab space. It gets printed. Done. Then printing hyphens again, 50 hyphens. Now, what are we doing in line number 4076? What exactly are we doing in line number 4076? Are we calling the function? Yes, we are calling the function. But what kind of arguments they are? What kind of parameters are there? We are calling the function. That's perfect. But what kind of arguments are they? They are positional arguments, friends. Because you see here, 10 will be assigned to, 10 will be passed to A, 20 will be passed to B, 30 will be passed to C. Am I using ABC in the function call anywhere? No. So, based on the position, the values will be passed. So what kind of arguments are they? They belong to positional. They are not keyword. If they are keyword, these formal parameters that we have, A, B, C, they will be used as keys in function call as well. You see in the next line, in this one, C is equals to, A is equals to, B is equals to. So this is whatever the parameters that we have here, these arguments are nothing but keyword arguments. C is equals to value, A is equals to value, B is equals to value. So the keys, based on the keys, the values will be passed. So A takes 10, B takes 20, C takes 20, 30, right? So the difference between line number 4076 and 4077 are, in 4076 we are passing positional arguments. In 4077 they become keyword arguments. The difference you understood, guys? They are not keyword arguments in line number 4076. No. How can you identify it? If they are if they are keyword arguments, these formal parameters A, B, C, they have to be used as the keys to pass the values. That we are doing in line number 4077, not in 4076. Right. What are we doing in the next line? 4078. 4078. What kind of arguments are they? I'm passing 10, comma, C is equals to 30, comma, B is equals to 20. Okay, good. So within this line, 4078, we are passing two types of arguments, not single type. 10 becomes positional. So based on the position, 10 will be passed to A. What about C and B? They become keyword arguments. They are keyword arguments as they are used as keys in the function call. So 30 will be passed to C, 20 will be passed to B. It's not one type, friends. In line number 4078, we are passing two types of arguments. They are positional and keyword arguments, both. Let me execute. The output will be same. There is no change in the output because time again the values are same. Right? Yes. What about line number 4079? 4079. Again, two types of arguments. 10 and 20 will be position based. So positional arguments. But C is a keyword argument. Keyword parameter. So let me execute. Done. Good. What about line number 4080? 4080. Come on, guys. I want everyone to respond for line number 4080. What will be the output? Okay. Okay. Hmm. Everyone, 10, 20 are positional. Okay. So you mean C is keyword? Good. Good. Keep going. First of all, okay, 30 is keyword, 10, 20, 30 will be the output. Okay. Will it execute, guys? Hmm. The moment you see here, you're going to understand the function and you're defining. You're going to give a response, right? First of all, will it execute? Will it execute or not? The question raises. It will throw an error. It will throw an syntax error. There is something wrong inside this. What is it? A positional argument follows keyword argument. See, initially, if you are having in this way, the syntax that you have come up is completely wrong. Yes, then how you are able to give your answers without concentrating? That is what I'm asking you. Focus. Positional argument initially has to be the first one. Okay. So why did line number 4079 execute? Why not 4080? It is same, right? But I have interchanged the positions. Okay. When you are interchanging the positions, as we have two different types of arguments, it is not accepted in this way because a positional argument doesn't follow a keyword argument. No, initially we should have positional arguments. Next to it, we'll have keyword arguments. So 10, 20 should be initial one. Then C is equals to 30 will be accepted. But if you have in this fashion, it will throw you error. Clear? Yes, the sequence, the positioning is not correct. That is the reason it is throwing an syntax error. Right. We are done. Now in the same way, I'll come up with, let us take it to the next level. Let us take it to the next level. What am I doing? I'm coming up with a function. Okay. And the function name is display student details, where we have, what are these? We have four parameters. Okay. Out of these four parameters, one is a default one. What is a default parameter? Course, CRS. CRS is the default one, right? So which takes the default value as Python. Okay. So let me define the function. The same logic, we have to print. The values will be printed. Okay. Now, printing hyphens 50 and printing a message and hyphens again. Now, what are we doing? Here onwards, you guys have to respond. Course is a default parameter. Good. CRS is a default parameter. What will be the output for line number 4090 and what type of parameters or arguments we are passing in line number 4090? Come on, guys. What will be the output? 100 NEUT 66.66 and Python will be the output. Okay. So obviously these three parameters will be position based. Are they positional parameters? Positional arguments? Yes. 100, NEUT, 66.6. Anyways, we are not passing any value for CRS, right? So the default value Python will be, returned. That will be passed and it prints Python. Good. What about the next line? Again, it is a similar case. So the same 101 JG 16.55 and Python will be printed, accepted. Now, line number 4092. What kind of arguments we have in line number 4092? Probably this line. What kind of parameters are these? What kind of arguments you see in the function? When you're calling the function display student details, we have three parameters, three arguments. So what kind of, arguments are these? They are keyword arguments. Good. How did you tell that they are keyword arguments? Keyword arguments, they will be passed as keys irrespective of the position. See, max is a key. I can take the same formal parameter as a key and the value can be passed. So the order can change. Order is not, given priority here. It can change. So it is the parameters that we have, the arguments that we have in this line are keyword arguments. Right? So let me execute. So this will print, which is the first one, 102 RT, then 33.33 and Python will be our output. Yes, perfect. Then coming to the next example, what will be the output for the next example? Where we are calling the function again, okay, and I'm passing the values 1 or 3. Then I have two formal parameters calling, okay, they are marks and sname. And anyways, CRS course is Python, right? The default value for CRS default parameter, the default value is Python. So what kind of arguments do we have in line number 4093? We have both position based and keyword based arguments. Two types. Anyways, we also have the default. As we are calling, all the four values will be returned 103. Then MC 10.11. Python will be our output. Where we are using all the three arguments. All the three arguments we are using. Position based, keyword based and default. Yes, all the three. So the output will be 103, 10.11, sorry, 103, MC, 10.11 and Python. Because, it has to be, it prints as student's name, then marks. Let me execute guys. Let us check. Is our output matching with the original? Yes, it is. Now comes, a wonderful example. So what's happening in line number 4094? 4094. What happens when we execute line number 4094? Hmm? Okay. So all of these are keyword, right? Okay. Hmm? What do you say, my friends? What will be the output here? Perfect. Good. It will return as, first of all, will it execute? What is the wrong? Why it is a syntax error? Why it will be a syntax error? Even that you have to explain. All of these are perfect because, keyword arguments accepted. But what is this? Java, will it be assigned to course? Will this be assigned to course? No, this will not be assigned to course. No, it treats as a positional argument. The problem comes here, guys. See, let me execute. If you want to pass Java to course CRS, you have to, come up with the formal parameter. That is what we do in the next line anyways. See, why it is not allowing you to change the value for the course is, this will be treated as a positional argument. And we know that positional argument should store, it has to be at the starting of all the arguments, then followed by the keyword. And finally, we should have at the last default. So that is the reason it is not allowing us to print the results. It is a syntax error. The syntax is wrong. So what am I doing? To overcome it, what are we doing in the next line? Will line number 4095 execute? Again, the question rises. 4095. What kind of parameters, arguments are we passing? We are passing marks. It's a keyword. CRS, course, is a default argument. It's a default parameter. Will it execute or not? Yes. Yes. So that is the wrong thing. We have, when you want to change the value for the default parameter, you are supposed to ensure that even now the parameter was being used as a keyword. Okay, if not, it will be treating as a positional argument. So that is the wrong thing. A syntax error was being occurred just because of this. And we are printing hyphens at the last. That's it. Clear? So with this, we have also completed keyword arguments or parameters. Keyword arguments or parameters were being done. Now, let us understand the next type of arguments. Let us also understand the next type of arguments. They are variable length arguments or parameters. Variable length arguments are parameters. What is this variable length arguments? So let us understand, guys. Especially when we have a family of multiple function calls. Underline this. Okay, when I want to call the function for multiple times, where within the function, if there are, the number of arguments, the number of values, if they are keeping on changing, then what we do, we have to define multiple function definitions. See, if I want to get the sum of two numbers, probably I'll use the same. I have to define a function. So the function will be def keyword followed by the function name add. So here I'll just pass a comma b because I want to get the sum of two numbers, right? So it will be a comma b, right? Then I'll keep the logic a plus b, then return whatever it might be. I'll call the function, I'll pass two values, I'll get the output. Done. But what if I want to, add three numbers a, b, c, not two? Will this function work out? No. Because this is only for two, right? This is the function which we have defined for only adding two values. But what if I want to, add three values? Then again I have to define a function. Yes. Def keyword, function name, add. Okay. Then within the parenthesis, I'll pass a comma b comma c. I'll keep the logic and I'll call the function. When I call the function, I'll obviously pass three values. That will result me the addition of three numbers. Done. But what if I want to, add four values? Even this function will also, it is not applicable. Why? What is your aim? What is your goal? Is to add sum of four values. But how many parameters that is accepting? It is accepting only three. This is accepting only two. Again, you have to define a function. So in this case, what do you observe? The function is same, okay, and even the logic is same. But as the number of parameters are keeping on changing, what's happening? We are calling the function for multiple times, and moreover, we are defining the same function for multiple times. So to just overcome this process, we have the concept of variable length parameters. Then variable length parameters came into the picture. What is this variable length parameters? What is this variable length arguments? Let us understand. A variable length parameters or a variable length arguments are defined in a single function definition. Within one function definition, we'll have them, and it takes a parameter which is preceded with asterisk mark. Nothing but the star symbol. So if you find any of the parameter with a star symbol, it is called as asterisk. Okay. So if you are able to find this kind of symbol, it is representing a variable length parameter. And what is the purpose of this variable length parameter? They help us to store or hold any number of values coming from the similar function calls. So within one function, I'll have this variable length parameters, which is, the parameter will be preceded with the star symbol. If you find this kind of star symbol in front of any of the parameter, you can understand that it is a variable length argument or variable length parameter which can hold or which can store multiple values coming from, the similar function call. And by default, this type will be tuple. The type of this parameter will be tuple. So there are few important points that has to be discussed when it comes to variable length arguments. Okay, so the first one is within a function definition, within a function heading. Okay, every time there will be only a single variable length parameter. It must be only one. You cannot have, star A, comma star B, comma star C. No, not accepted. They cannot be multiple. If you have one, if you have star param, this parameter will take multiple values. So what is the purpose of having multiple variable length operators? No, not accepted. You are violating the syntax. So very important. Every time when you are defining the function in the function heading, we'll have only one variable length parameter or argument which is preceded with the star symbol. Then the second rule says when we use variable length and default parameters, when you are using both default and variable length parameters in the function heading, okay, we use default parameter as the last. We use the default parameter has to be used at the last. Before that, we use the variable length parameter. So if you are trying to use a variable length parameter as well as default parameter within the same function, so the default will be given at the last position. Before that, we'll have a variable length parameter. And this, we should not also use the default parameter as keyword argument. No. The main reason is a variable length parameter accepts the number of values by positional argument values. How it is going to accept the values? The type is tuple, but it accepts the variable of values, multiple values, they are treated as positional arguments. Okay, so probably I hope you got a good understanding for variable length parameters or arguments. My bad. Okay, so let us understand a few examples. Okay, so that we can have a clear picture that how variable length parameters or arguments they work. The purpose of it, right? Yes. So initially we are trying to understand. So what are we doing? I am trying to define a function. So where it helps us to display the results of a value. For that we are defining a function. And this particular function will help us to display only a single value. Only a single value will be displayed. Right? So let me do it. I'm defining and calling. So what will be the output? The output will be obviously 10. Defined, and when it got called, it has printed the value. So position based anyways. Positional. Positional arguments. Now, what if I want to display two values? Can I use the same function? No. Because we had only one parameter. When we are defining the function, we just used only one parameter inside it. So obviously I have to create one more function and define it to display two values. I have defined, done. Then I'm calling the function to display two values, 10, 20. So based on the position x, 10 will be passed to x and 20 will be passed to y. So the output will be 10, 20. Clear? All these we have tried as part of, positional arguments. Yes. But If I want to display three values, can I use this function? No. Can I use this one? Again, no. So should I come up with one more function? Yes. I have to define one more function to display three values, x, y, z. Then after once it got defined, we'll call the function where the values will be passed based on the positions. 10 will be passed to x, 20 will be passed to y, 30 will be passed to z. Done. But what if I want to display four values? Can I use any one of these three functions? No. So this is the challenge that was being observed initially. This is the challenge that was being observed. So in order to overcome this, we have variable length parameters or arguments. Anyways, let me execute this. So defining function to display four values, then calling the function to display all the four values 10, 20, 30 and 40. Where 10 will be passed to x, 20 will be passed to y, 30 will be passed to z and 40 will be passed to k. So position based. Clear? Right. So this will not work out right. Every time I cannot define the function, then I cannot call it. No. Just to overcome this, we have variable length parameters or variable length arguments. How do you identify whether it is a variable length argument or a variable length parameter? You just see a star, symbol in front of the parameter. So that represents a variable length parameter. And how many variable length parameters can you have in the function heading? Only one. So what am I doing? I'm defining a function display, the same function, but inside it, I'm just using only one parameter. It is called variable length. What is the purpose of using variable length parameter? It helps us to store or hold multiple values. Okay, multiple values will be passed for this parameter, variable length parameter. Okay, and what is the block of statement says? We have a for loop. Yes. So we have a for loop which takes each and every value from this variable length parameter and the value will be assigned to val, and that gets printed. We are also using end parameter guys inside the print function. So obviously the results will not be printed in the next line. So just with a space, the results will be printed for each and every iteration. Then at the last, it will print nothing. We just had a print function. So let me define the function disp. Done. Now, can I display one value? Yes. Can I display two values? Yes. Can I display 300, 1000? Yes. Any number of values are accepted. Why? It is a variable length operator. Variable length parameter. My bad. Okay. Right. So what am I doing in line number 4123? I am calling the function disp, the display function, and how many values are we passing? How many values are we passing here? In line number 4123. So we are just passing a single value. Yes. So it helps us to print a single value. Yes. And by default, this variable length parameters, they take the values based on the positional arguments. Positional argument values are being taken. Then in the next line, I'm passing two values. Will it accept? Yes. You can have multiple values being passed. So what are the values that I'm passing? 10, 20. So it prints 10, then 20 in the same line, not one by one, because I'm using end parameter inside the print function. Then I'm also passing three values. Will it print? Yes. 4, accepted. 5, yes. Even 50, 100, yeah, wish. 6 values. 5 of them are, int type values, and the sixth one is str type value. Will it accept? Yes, it will accept. It will accept and print all of them, where all these values were being passed to a variable length parameter, and it prints all the 6 values to the console in the same line. Now, I'm just passing only 2 values, Java, Python. Will it print? Yes, it will print as is. Taking a bool type value, only a single one. Accepted? Yes, it will accept. It does not depend on the type, right? So it just focuses on, the logic. So it prints the true. Done. Is it clear? Now, let me go to the next example where we are defining one more function, sum OP, okay, where we have two parameters. Two parameters. What are they? The first one is S name and the next one is star A. So obviously star A will be a variable length parameter. S name will be a positional argument, a positional parameter. Right? So this will print 50 hyphens initially. Then we had a variable S which stores 0, and the S name value gets formatted where it prints name of the student is equals to the value. Followed by we have a for loop in which the val takes each and every value from the variable length parameter. Okay, and it prints the value as it is in the same line, within the same line, because end parameter is what we are using in print function. Then what are we doing? We are performing arithmetic operation. Addition is what we are performing, where the value that val takes gets added to S. What is S initially? 0. 0. And S value will be updated. S value will be updated for each and every iteration. Then it prints nothing. Next to it, it prints the value of S, the sum value. And at the last, it prints 50 hyphens. It prints 50 hyphens. Right? Now, let me start calling the function I have defined. So, can you guess what will be the output? What will be the output in case of line number 4144? Where we are passing a value for S name. So this becomes a positional argument, positional parameter, but A star will take 10. So the output will be name of the student is equals to RS. First of all, it prints 50 hyphens within the function. Then name of the student is equals to RS will be printed. Then the for loop starts executing. Where it prints 10, then the value of s gets updated to 10 and it prints sum is equals to 10 and at the last it also prints 50 hyphens. See, clear? Now, for the next case, what will be the output for the next case? Name of the students will be JG. But what values will it print? It will print 10 and 20 in the same line and the sum will be 30. The sum will be 30. Why? Because 10 and 20 will be passed to a variable length parameter. It accepts multiple variable length parameters, multiple values. You see? Then coming to the next line, name of the students will be TR. Then it prints 10, 20, 30. Sum is equals to 60 will be our output. Sum equals to 60 will be our output. In the next line, name of the student will be MC. It prints 10, 20, 30 and 40 in the same line and sum is equals to 100 will be our output. Then in the next line, name of the students will be GM. It prints 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50 in the same line and in the last line it prints sum is equals to 150. For the last function call, we are passing in total 6 values for the variable length parameter. So the name of the students will be dr, sum will be 210. Clear? Right. So one last program, just focus. Creating one more function, sum OP. I'm taking the same function, but a small change with respect to the parameters. A small change with respect to the number of parameters. Earlier, we are just using one positional argument, one positional parameter, followed by a variable length parameter. Next to it, we have course. So here, we are coming up with a default argument. A default parameter is being into the picture. Okay, so when you are using a variable length parameter and default parameter together, ensure that the default parameter should be at the last. This is what we have discussed, right? So we have the default parameter taking the default value as Python. The code is same. There is no change with respect to the logic. Okay, it is the same where it returns the name of the student. And additionally, it just added a one more line. Okay, where it prints student is doing some so on so course that gets printed and rest of the the logic is same, friends. So I'm executing, defining the function, done. Now what will be the output for line number 4164? What will be the output for line number 4164. I'm calling the function sum OP. Okay. But I'm not passing any value. So what will be the output? Will it print the output? What will be the output, guys? So what will be the output? A Python? No. Any idea what will be the output? Others? It will throw error. It will throw an error. What is error? What is error that it is going to return us? It has returned us a type error. It says we are missing one required positional argument. So whenever you are using positional argument, for sure the value has to be passed. If you don't pass any value for the positional argument, it will throw you an type error. So S name, for S name, we have to pass a value, right? So we got a type error. Clear? Then what will be the output for the next line? 4165. Are we passing the value for S name? Yes, we are passing. It is HYD because position based, right? So S name, S takes HYD. Then CRS is our default parameter. So instead of Python, it takes DL. So will it return as an output? Yes, it will return an output. You see? It will return the output. Name of the student is HYD. HYD is doing DL course and sum is equals to 0. Anyways, there are no values being passed for variable length parameter, but still it executes. In the same way, 4166. 4166, where we are passing, this become a keyword argument now, keyword parameter. We are passing the value and for scores we are passing it as testing. So the output will be name of the student is equals to Mohan. Mohan is doing testing codes. Simple. Then 4167. What parameters are we passing? What is this argument? It is a positional argument. So S name takes ROSM. And anyways, the default value for course is Python. It executes. It executes. Right. Now, let me start passing the values for, variable length operator. Variable length parameters. Okay. S name takes RS. Star A takes 10. And the default value for Python, the course is Python will be passed. So we'll see the output for sum now because we are passing values for the variable length parameters. So that is the reason we are able to see the values for sum. Then what will be the output in the next case? Name of the student is JG. JJ is doing Python course. and 10, 20 will be printed, sum will be 30. The same guys, I'm just increasing the values for, variable length parameters, variable length arguments. We're just passing multiple values. Here, the sum will be 60. And in the next line, the student name get changed and the sum will be 100. In the next line, the sum will be 150. And we are now passing the values for the variable length operator. In total, we are passing 6 values. The sum becomes 210. The same output, just the name of the student is being changed along with, the value for the sum. But the default value for the default parameter course is being taken, Python. Then what happens if I execute line number 4174? 4174. Is it accepted or not? Where I am passing -10, -20, -30 and S name, for S name I am passing NEUT. Is it accepted, guys? Good, good. What do you think? That will be printed? Will it print NEUT is doing the course? What is the output that you got? The function got multiple values for the positional argument S name. Okay, so you cannot have a keyword argument later. Okay, so before the values that you are going to pass for variable length argument, initially you should have it. Then the values can be passed. Here, is this accepted? NUT will be assigned for S name anyways, position based. So I'm going to change the value for course, DSC. DSC. And the values that we have are 4, 5, -4, -5. Will it execute or not? That's it. It will not execute. Why? Why it is not executing? Because, positional argument that we have, it is following the keyword argument. No, you cannot have the keyword, this particular default argument immediately. This can be passed at the last. Okay, so that is what I'm doing here. That is what I'm doing in the next line, where I'm changing the course to Java. Will it execute? Come on guys, will it execute or not? It will not execute. Again, the question raises. This is because of we are not specifying, right? See, what happens is NUT will be assigned to S name. Then what is the next parameter that we have? A, which takes multiple values. So even it takes Java. Java will be passed to A. So can we add these values? Because for some we have to add these values. So when you try to pass Java to that variable length parameter, you'll get a type error. See, unsupported operate type for plus int and str. No. For that reason, you have to keep it clear. Sname takes NUT, A takes all these values. Then the default parameter CRS takes Java. It takes Java. Now it is accepted. Now it will accept. See, y is 0, plus 4 minus 4 cancels, minus 5 plus 5 get cancelled. So the output will be 0. Finally, we are calling the function finally one last call where we are passing the values. Will it execute or not? Will line number 4178 get executed or not? It will. Is it executing? No, the same issue. Whatever we have raised it here, it is again the same. Okay, a positional argument is following the keyword argument, not accepted. Clear? So this is an understanding of variable length parameters or arguments. We have also the fifth one, and we'll be understanding the last fifth type in the next session. Right? Right. So if you have any kind of questions, issues, you can ask it here. Any questions? Any doubts? And if you find that the session went well, hit on the like button, friends. And do subscribe to our channel if you're joining for the first time. And also share across these connections among your connections. Do share these sessions among your connections. Any technical questions, non-technical questions? Right.